The Vylar archive calls it the Day of Whispered Stars. It's a date etched into their collective memory, a moment when their understanding of the cosmos fundamentally shifted. Their maiden warp jump, a triumph of Vylar ingenuity, dropped them 7 light hours from Sol, their sensors singing with the thrill of virgin discovery. They fully expected to find some quaint, Stone Age curiosity, maybe a fledgling civilization or a barren rock. Instead, their long-range pings hit something vast, something impossibly complex. A Dyson lattice that answered back in fluent Valarics. And not just fluent, but accent perfect. The tone utterly bored Data in the next 42 seconds. Every helm screen on their flagship flashed the same line. Just one simple sentence. Welcome to Terran space. Keep velocity under 0.1 c or we will tow you. Tow you. Can you imagine? To a species that had just outgrown war, a society that believed itself the pinnacle of galactic peace and progress, that word felt like a physical slap. It was a stark, almost brutal reminder that the quiet they'd always perceived in the galaxy hadn't been emptiness. It was, apparently, by choice. Vylar history books boasted 3 millennia without conflict. 3,000 years. They'd turned biology into poetry and poetry into policy, crafting a society of profound artistic and philosophical depth. Their most advanced weapon, something they rarely even bothered with, was a decorative pulse that could wilt flowers at 20 paces. An art piece, nothing more. It was a testament to their belief that true civilization had transcended the need for crude force. So, when their long-range scopes showed Earth's moon bristling with kilometer-long rails, they just assumed these primitives were preparing some grand, dazzling fireworks display. How quaint, they must have thought. Still, curiosity was their only remaining vice, so they hailed anyway. Earth Traffic Control replied immediately, pinging them coordinates for a parking orbit. And where was this prime parking spot? Oh, just between 2 orbital forts, casually nicknamed Mischief and Malice. The Vylar captain, still chuckling at the humans' apparent lack of subtlety, watched on his view screen as both stations lit their drive plumes. Then, in a display of impossible precision, they side-slipped in perfect synchrony, opening a corridor exactly 1 hull width wider than the Vylar ship. It wasn't just a maneuver, it was a handshake measured in microns, a silent flex of unimaginable power. The captain's crest, a biological indicator of his emotional state, flushed a deep ultraviolet, the color of polite, absolute terror. Inside that corridor, time itself seemed to dilate. Human fighter clouds, thousands of drones, no larger than Vylar thumbs, swarmed their hull. They weren't attacking, though. Instead, they painted the ship with invisible ink, mapping every single rivet in real time, every structural weakness, every possible entry point. It was an inventory, a detailed assessment of their vessel. Then, a single transmission followed, crisp and unsettlingly calm. We value life, so we rehearse. Stand by for cultural exchange. Rehearse? The Vylar had rehearsed opera, grand ballets, and intricate philosophical debates. They certainly hadn't rehearsed annihilation. Their bridge, once warm with the glow of discovery, suddenly turned ice cold. Then, the data poured in, an avalanche of terrifying truth. Sol's asteroid belt wasn't just rock and ice. It was stored ordnance, trillions of projectiles mass-produced and waiting, ready to be deployed at a moment's notice. Terra's moon, Luna, hadn't just been colonized. It had been hollowed out, transformed into a colossal magazine capable of reloading those kilometer-long railguns every 3 seconds. Forever. Mars? It was a sprawling shipyard where kilometric hulls, larger than any Vylar ever conceived, rolled off assembly lines like pastries from a baker. And Earth itself? Its internet alone carried more entropy, more raw information and processing power, than the entire Vylar knowledge corpus combined. The humans had weaponized plenty, an industrial military complex of staggering scale. They simply chose not to fire. The deep, pervasive quarantine the Vylar had mistaken for silence was actually a colossal do not disturb sign, hung by a species that had already won every argument the galaxy could invent, long before anyone else even knew there was a debate. They possessed the overwhelming firepower and material superiority to sustain conflicts indefinitely, making money and intelligence effectively infinite variables in warfare. The Viler captain, his voice trembling, requested permission to retreat. Earth traffic control, still perfectly courteous, answered, "Safe travels. Share what you've learned." And they did. Within a single solar week, every species on the Viler frontier received the same data packet: updated stellar cartography, human linguistics, and a single, chilling line translated into 200 tongues. The quiet was never emptiness. It was respect. Galactic charts updated overnight. Trade lanes, once straight and direct, now curved gracefully around Sol like river water around an immovable stone. No council declared humanity supreme. No empire signed an accord or treaty. The galaxy simply rerouted itself, whispering a new axiom across the vacuum. Knock once, knock politely, and for your own sake, wait for the door to open. They didn't conquer, they simply were. So, when newcomers to the galactic stage ask why the stars feel so still, why there's such a profound, almost reverent hush around one particular yellow sun, veterans simply point. Because the apex lives there, they say, their voices low, and they like their sleep. Do not threaten Earth. Do not assume humans will submit. And if you hear silence, truly hear it, consider it the loudest warning the galaxy knows how to give.